Welcome to a special episode of The Planted Runner. I'm Coach Claire Bartholic. Today, I'm doing a follow up with one of the runners I profiled on my series, The PR Training Lab. We are going to meet Adrian, who just turned 68 years old and was training for the Sydney Marathon this September. If you heard the original episode of the PR Training Lab, you'll remember that Adrian is a very fast runner in any age group, and he had very ambitious goals for Sydney, which was also designated as the World Age Group Championships. We'll find out how training went for him using the custom plan I made for him, how the race turned out, and what advice he would give new runners coming to the sport later in life. Now, if you would like to enter to win a custom training plan with the chance of getting your plan created live here on the PR Training Lab, first, make sure you've submitted an Apple Podcast review and then head to theplantedrunner.com/PR lab. That's theplantedrunner.com/PR lab. The great thing is that you don't even need to have a race in mind to do really well with a custom plan. They're perfect for the time between races too, when you need a different training focus. If you don't trust your luck to get chosen, you can get your custom plan made just for you anytime at theplantedrunner.com/plans. And now let's meet Adrian. Welcome to the Planted Runner, Adrian.
Thank you very much, Claire. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So I did a training plan for you for the Sydney Marathon on air as part of my PR training lab. So before we get into the results of how it went, I want to ask you, first of all, why did you enter the contest? You were training for the Sydney Marathon. You clearly already had a plan going. So, what was your motivation to get a plan done by me?
Well, I followed you on social media and listened to your podcast, and I found a lot of useful information, and some of them they were new, some of them they were reinforcing what I already knew. But it's always good to have a second pair of eyes from a professional on what you are doing, and I'm at the age where I'm looking for every single advantage that I can have from from a get from a professional who can help me out in terms of improving a little bit. Couple of percentage here and there, it's all what I need. So and I hope for. And that's was the reason why. So I've seen you provided some plans for other runners. So it was intriguing for me because not too many coaches they offer this kind of real life services with real people, real runners, and I
Mm-hmm.
found it difficult for senior runners to find plans that are tailored to them. Um, Most of them they are geared for people in the 30s, 40s, which is
Right.
fine. I understand that it's the biggest market, but for seniors runner, it's a bit more difficult. Has to be specific in terms of recovery and other things that you know very well.
Yeah, for sure. So, remind everybody how old you are because you run faster than most 30-year-olds.
Well, I'm 68 years old
Uh-huh.
today, so this
Ah,
is
happy birthday.
thank you very much. And yes, I hope that I will be able to run marathons. I'm hooked into marathons. I have to admit, it's my preferred. Uh, I prefer marathons versus any other races. I ran everything from 5K to ultras, but marathon is the distance where it's still a race.
Mm.
It's not a survival like an ultra, and it's not short that you can run on glycogel mainly, and
Mhm.
it has to be to have a strategy when you go into marathon. So it's more appealing to me. So
Okay.
this is what I do. So at 68, I hope to still be able to run in my 70s.
I
hopefully.
think you will be, for sure. So you are from Canada, but
Yes.
you traveled all the way to Sydney for the marathon. Tell everybody what was so special about Sydney this year in particular.
Well, Sydney, they try to become a major marathons along with the other six ones, and so it was a provisional race, how they call it, for
Mm-hmm.
Abbott World Majors. But mainly I went there because of the age group world championship.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that started, I think, 4 years ago, sponsored by Abbott, and it becomes more serious. It has a lot of marketing behind it, and age group world championship is for runners from 40 all the way up to 80 plus, and it's by invitational that you have to qualify. It's pretty competitive. So
Yes.
for my age group, 65, 69, you have to run 3:26 or faster, which is almost 40 minutes faster than Boston, for example, just to give a
Right.
perspective. Yeah. So qualifying there, it was quite of a bit unexpected to me, and I decided to go for the race. So,
Yeah. Well, I was very honored to help you out with this, but by the time you actually got the plan from me, you were already in training. So, if you could maybe describe what you were doing and how what I gave you was different, or was it the same? Can you talk a little bit about what it was like training for Sydney?
well, training for Sydney was, I got your plan when I was, I think, 8 weeks from
Mm,
the race. So um, I usually go about 15 weeks training block specific for marathon after the base. And I usually do like most marathon runners they do. You do a bit of a speed work, a bit of a tempo, long runs, and some easy runs in between. So um, I had lots of other plans from previous years, and I'm trying to follow them. I run with a group, a club, Rockies, and they have lots of experienced runners, younger and faster than me, and so it's always an exchange of ideas of how do you run. There are others going with Hansen
hmm.
training, which works pretty well for younger and faster guys, I think. But for me, I'm more into a volume type of runner, so I need 60, 65 miles for about 4 weeks, 6 weeks.
Hmm.
65 miles a week, that's the sweet spot. And your plan was at 5 days. So I added one more day to your plan, and I took a couple of um, uh, specific runs that I found them useful and challenging. Like I think it was Michigan, which was
Ah, yeah, that's a
one of
good
the
one.
hardest that I cannot say I hit it 100%, but
That's
I
okay.
try to stick. Yeah. So it's this switch between half marathon, pace marathon with a bit of a speed work in between. So it always mixing up the pace. I used to do tempo runs in block of 3 miles, take a break, another 3 miles. Um, but this one was very interesting and challenging in the same way. I found running a steady state before a long run was
Hmm.
interesting. It having to running marathon pace the day before the long run,
Hmm.
and after that doing a long run, you are already on tired legs. So
Yes.
it was very helpful. I knew about it, but I was reluctant to do it before. Now I managed to do it once. So it was yeah. So those I think I incorporated, and I think I looked to another one, alternating tempo. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
the name you have it for it, which is it's very good on a tempo run to switch the pace a bit,
Mhm.
push a bit, get back uh, for another 1 or 2 or 3 miles, and speed up again. And I'm lucky I run with the Rockies, and I always have somebody who's willing to pace me on this.
Nice. That's
Otherwise,
helpful.
doing it alone is it's going to it's a bit more challenging. But
Yes.
with a group, it's always, and they're very supportive, and I couldn't have done it without them for sure, because and they are willing to take the time, come with me. What do you want to do today? They take turns, and it's helpful. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
running with a group. Yeah.
Running with a group is, I think, a very, very helpful part if you really want to get better. You hang out with people who are better than you. But one thing I noticed that it's very sweet that you're talking in miles for us, but you are Canadian and you had your plan in metric. So
Yeah.
you can switch between metric and
Yeah.
imperial if you wish.
No,
So
I'm
that's
used
fine.
to Imperial as well. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay,
that
good.
was one of the tricky part in Sydney, by the way, for the American runners, because everything was in kilometers.
Right.
So they complain a bit about this. Well, if you want to be a major, you have to put at least 5 miles marks, and
Yes,
yeah,
yes, you have to think in 2 languages,
of
so
course.
we get used to it. But I'm glad you mentioned this study before the long run. So I want to take a second and explain why I do that. It sounds miserable, but it's actually something that allows you to have a shorter long run, but with a greater impact. So you do get to practice a little bit of marathon pace the day before, but that's usually not the main goal. The main goal is to run your long run on slightly tired legs. So it simulates a long run. So it's you should think about those two runs as one run, just broken up with a night of sleep. They go together, and it really, I have found that it makes durable legs without the risks of way too long run. So I'm glad you tried it at
Yeah.
least once. If you were on my plan for 14 weeks, you would be doing it 7 times. I usually do it every other week if you can handle it, but
That's great. Yeah.
I'm glad that you at least tried it. So your original goal when you filled out the form was 3:15, but then when you emailed me later, you said you were looking for really realistically 3:20 or 3:30. So tell everybody how it went.
Um, so a couple of days before the race, they issued a wind warning for the
Mhm.
day of the race. Um, 20, 30 miles per hour, picking up to 40 later on. So it was that temperature wise was perfect.
Okay.
Upper 40s. Um, but the wind chill made it uncomfortable for part of the race. But uh, the wind was the factor, and that this I made the decision to look to pace and try to visualize and look to mile markers and all this based on 320, and that was the A goal. So I always have three goals. One is the main goal, the A goal, the B goal, and
Mhm.
just finish.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
as long as the effort is there, I'm happy. So
Yes.
there are days when body and mind are not there, or and
Sure.
you have to be you as long as you put the effort. That's all what you can ask for. So 320 was my A goal, and I have to say I'm pretty happy. I did 320 in 32 seconds, and
Perfect.
that was
Perfect.
on the money. So it was it's a very hilly race. I'm not
Mhm.
sure why they made it even hillier than it was last year. So it has the elevation gain is about 50% more than Boston.
Mm.
So it's a net downhill, true, which is a blessing in disguise.
Right. Right.
It drops 300 feet in the first 2 miles, 2.5 miles. You
Mhm.
have to be careful, save your quads, and so on. But It's hillier. The last 60 feet hill is at mile 25.
Mm-hmm.
And
The worst
it's
spot.
the worst spot. Yeah, you
And the
feel
wind
the.
was blowing in your face.
It was side winds at that point,
Side
but
wind. Okay, good.
what made this race a bit difficult, at least for me, I tried to split the 26 mile in three parts. Otherwise, it's daunting just thinking that I have to run so long. And
Mm-hmm.
the first half is this is all what I think of. Just stay in the rhythm, get into a flow, stay relaxed, get into a rhythm, and as long to a point where the pace is comfortably hard. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
you're in control. You don't have to look to every single mile marker to be sure that I did another K or another mile. Uh, Acknowledge the crowd. Try to do some bit of a sightseeing. So enjoy it at this point.
Yes.
If you can get into this flow, the mind will you free up the mind. You don't put too much pressure. And 21 to so half point to 20 miles is what I call it the no man's land. You still have a long way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Becoming tired, the mind, the negative thoughts are creeping in. Oh, it hurts here, it hurts there. I still have to go a long way. So at this point, you have to start to focus and look to the form, nutrition, hydration, all those kind of things. And once you get to 20 miles, it's okay. This is now when the race starts. This is what you trained for.
Yes.
All the mantras, all the mental part kicks in, and it's only 50 minutes. It's going to you still can do it, and so on. So this is how I try to break the race in chunks that I can
Mm-hmm.
manage them with a different mindset. But in this one, because of the hills and of the wind, it was always a struggle. So going downhill, adjust the pace, looking to form. The wind is coming. I'm losing a couple of seconds here, there. I can gain something here. So it was always this focus on the race that by the time I got to mile 20, I was drained mentally and physically probably. And
Oh,
yeah,
uh-oh.
so at that point, it was all willpower. So I trained
Mm.
for this. I'm good. I still can do it. Let's stay on the rhythm. The next 2 miles, focus on 2 miles, 2 miles, 2 miles at a time. And by the time the hill was done and it was the last half a mile, I was sprinting like I told you that I like the fast finish, long run fast finish,
Yes.
where you go all out. And I went 6 minutes and a half per mile
Wow.
on the last half a mile. So that
Wow.
it's the training paid off, I have to admit, and I was quite happy that I finished. I was 10 in overall marathon on my age group and 9.
10,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it was
But in the world majors, you were ninth? Is that
9.
what you
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
so how
I'm
does
a.
that work? What was the difference
It
there?
was on one Aussie there who wasn't part of the age group world championship, and he was flying. He won it actually. He won it in 3 minutes, in 2 hours. Sorry, he finished in 3 hours, and I was looking to the qualifying times for the first five in my age group: 256
Mm,
to 304. Those are the
yeah,
top five. They were struggling too. So they finished 309, 310, which is still
right.
impressive, but they were
Much
five, 10
slower.
minutes
Yeah.
than their qualifying time. So the
Okay.
course is it's challenging in
Mhm.
Sydney.
Yeah. What was your fueling and hydration plan? I'm sure people would love to hear how you fueled and what you drank and if you took salt pills and, all of that. Like
Yeah.
what do you eat for breakfast? That kind of thing. People love this stuff. So I'm very curious.
Yeah. So in terms of carbo loading, I don't. do too much. So I don't eat large meals 2, 3 days before just to. I consider that as long as you cut down on mileage and you eat the same thing, it is doing a good job, and you don't get an upset stomach by eating too much. So I eat moderately. I eat pasta and this kind of, and no fiber. So I discovered that if I, not even bananas or apples or those kind of things, it's
Really
all, yeah, pure starchy stuff. So um, it white bread, jams, white rice, this kind of things, and it helps me to digest more gels in the race. So I
interesting.
plan to do 6 gels during one before the race and one every half an hour. So
Good.
those are that's the plan. And I found it that I tolerate morphine. It's
The brand Morton.
the brand
Mm-hmm.
morphine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I carry them with me, and I sometimes I take 1 or 2 gels from the course. They usually have goo or something like that. It's fine. I don't usually get an upset stomach. I feel a bit uncomfortable on this one because their um, sports drink, it's Fix. Never heard of it?
Fix.
Fix,
Yeah.
yeah. I I'm not a fan of it, but so it wasn't very good for me. But I don't carry. I don't like carrying bottles, and other than the gels, I don't. I drink whatever it's on the course, and I I'm pretty sure I get dehydrated, sorry, during
Mm,
the. There is no other way. It's
of course.
just managing how much you lose, and if you drink too much, you get bloated. If you have a fiber the day before meal, you get even worse. So that's why I eat unhealthy before just a day or two before the race, just to ensure that I don't have any fibers. But drinking is every other each water station at least a sip of water just to or a sport drinks to trick the brain that carbs are coming. Don't
Mm-hmm.
worry, it's there. So even if I feel a little bit that I had too much water, I just take a sip regardless.
Okay.
And unfortunately, the people for the volunteers around, they fill the cup, so you have to squeeze it and
And
just take
spill
a
it.
sip and spill it and so on. But
Right.
well, this is what it is. So 6 gels. If it's hot, I have some once an hour. I have some salts
Mm-hmm.
in form of a powder. I just drip it, put it in the cap, drink it. If it's not hot, like it was in Sydney, I had only one at case a mile 20, and
Okay.
that was it. So they are way too salty. The taste is not good, but I can tolerate it once an hour. That's fine. But if I don't have to, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
So that was the plan, and it takes me to 6 gels. They provide the energy that I need to finish.
Mhm. Yeah. I think that's great. I always recommend if you can handle it every half an hour. So obviously for a slower marathoner than you, they would be taking more gels because they'd be out there longer. But I like that you do it by time and not distance. It's not every 5K or whatever. It's every half an hour. So that's that's great. So were you always a runner like since you were a kid in high school, college, any of that? Or did you
No.
start later in life?
It was late in life. When I was
Yeah.
45, I started running.
45.
Yeah.
Why did you start running at 45?
Well, it was more like by accident, to be honest. The
Okay.
company had a 5K relay, and it was a lot of bragging rights, who's doing what, and I was doing a mile or 2 miles or so on. And so I registered for that. And the next year we went back, and after that, I said, well, marathon was always something on my bucket list, but I was under the impression that you have to be a super athlete to run it. It wasn't in a time where there are no smartphones, no
Yeah.
website, no YouTube, nothing. So only one website where I can find something about running a marathon. So, um, and I moved from 5K to a marathon in 4 months, and that I got hooked after that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so yes. So this is I started by accident, like probably most of the people trying to lose some weight, getting in shape, and so on. But I found it that the older I got, movement, uh, exercise is medicine.
Yes.
You have to do something, whatever you like. Could be Zumba, uh,
Yeah. Whatever.
Pilates,
Yeah.
whatever works for you, but you have to move. And
Absolutely.
this is something that is appealing to me, so I enjoy it, and I enjoy the social aspect of it. It's good for mental health as well,
Mhm.
and that's why I never stopped since.
I love it. I love it. So, do you do strength training too?
Oh yeah, so
Oh, good. Tell the people about that.
yeah, so running is it's in my opinion the best cardiovascular exercise you can do in terms of the benefits. But running is a repetitive movement. You move in one direction, so some of the muscles they tend to be tighter than the others. You get imbalance. You can knee problems, which are most common. So strength is critical, especially when the older you get, the stakes are against us. You start
Mhm.
losing muscle mass, bone density, hormone, all these other things that. So we are trying to cheat a bit by doing. Well, it's funny that one of the guys said that you are at the age where if you don't push forward, you move backwards.
Yes. Oh, I like
So
that. Yes.
it's something that you have to be especially when you get older. Strength is becoming critical.
Mm.
uh, I'm sorry I didn't do it much earlier. I would have avoided the knee problem that I had almost a year ago. But you have to ensure that all your muscles are balanced. I went to the physio, and she destroyed me in 2 minutes. She said, "This is weak. This is too tight. Your shoulder one is too high, the other is lower. Your hips are dropping, and so on. So you have weak muscles here, here, and here. You have to do exercise." So she gave me uh, an hour of exercises. I did them religiously for 5 days a week. An
Ooh.
hour. This is how I recovered from the knee problem, and I'm able to do squats in a proper form. And
Mhm.
this is something that I liked about your plan, that you have this comprehensive plan with strengthening, mobility, nutrition, yoga.
Mhm.
If I can make one suggestion,
Sure.
will be to try to put your camera on the side as well. So
Oh,
you're
yeah. Just show
always
people
from the
from the
front.
side. Yes.
So form is critical.
Mm.
So I arch my back when I do certain things, which is wrong. So
Mhm.
how where the knee shouldn't go ahead of the toe when you do a squat, and all this kind of things that helps you to do them correctly, which is
Mhm.
much more important than doing them, in my opinion. Otherwise, you can do more bad than good. It's hard to judge yourself, but if I see people will see you from the front and from the side, or one repeat front, one from the side, it will give them a hint that this is the right position, how the posture has to be.
Mhm.
So this is what I learned the hard way, that I didn't have the right position, the right form when I do certain exercises. So
Mhm.
that helps. So strength is one thing, is critical. Mobility, yoga is uh, obvious, the obvious choice. I cannot do it because I'm too stiff and I'm uncoordinated, and so I went to a yoga instructor that can help me out to
Good.
get into an approximate position that, but at least is a work in progress. So
Good.
yeah, so mobility, strength, training, not to forget the mental training part
Yes,
and recovery. The older you get,
absolutely.
recovery is as important as training.
Mm,
And
I love it.
I'm using a watch, a sport watch that I wear it overnight, and I'm looking to heart rate, resting heart rate, and HRV.
Mm,
And this is what I know that I'm good for the next training session.
good.
Sleep is important. Sleep score, how much deep sleep, light sleep, REM, all this combination. So
Mm-hmm.
duration is one thing, but quality of the sleep is critical. So those
Definitely.
those I monitor them, and it's the trend. It's not the absolute value, as you know. They're not
Good
perfect
point.
science, but
Yes, good point.
as long as the resting heartbeat is in 3-4 beats one day from another, HRV is balanced, and so on. So that helps a lot, and I think that's the whole package.
Love it. I love it. So, if somebody is listening to this and let's say they're in their 40s, they are about to start running or they're just gotten excited about running, and everything that you just described sounds a little overwhelming to them. What advice would you give somebody, a beginner who started late in life like you did?
Be patient. That's stay motivated first of all. So determination has to be there. You have to have a goal, and don't be afraid to set up high standards for yourself, even if you're not going to reach them in a year or two or three. It's a matter of having the patience to train hard to improve. I had my fair share of disappointments where I went to the race, I didn't do the way I expected. You consider yourself a failure. Well, I trained so much. I put 4 months into this, and look what I'm doing. Forget it. Nobody cares about that. So why I'm punishing myself like this? So all these negative thoughts. But as long as you know that you put the effort,
Yes.
and you may have good day or bad days, and you should be grateful that you can do it. Not
Yes.
too many people are doing. You do something special, and it doesn't matter if it's a 5K or a marathon or an ultra. You do something that not too many people are doing, and you have to be grateful that you are able to do it. Time is not important, or depending on your goals, you can be more upset, or you can be perfectly happy just to finish. That's fine. And don't get disappointed if you don't hit your potential. You go there, look, I have 5K in next time, I should be able to run a marathon in that time.
Right.
It's not going to happen right away. So, and it doesn't translate right
Mhm.
away into performance. So be patient and try to find a group, try to have some fun out of it. Don't make
Mhm.
it like a project, like it's work.
Yeah.
It's hard enough to run. It's even harder if you treat it like a project with strict deadlines, and I have to do this by that date. It
Yeah.
doesn't work like this. So you didn't train for 20 years, you lost your ability to run when you were a kid. You need time to get back into it. So
Mhm. I love
that's
that.
my advice. Be patient and have goals that and dreams. Try to
Yeah.
for something that you are going to accomplish, and for sure you will if you are persistent.
Perfect. I love that. So, what's the next goal for you?
Well, I it, I I'm taking one day at a time, to be honest, so to be sure
Yes.
that if the body holds, I'm trying to get into Tokyo. That's my last major.
Did they
I did
just announce that?
uh,
Was that today? Or
well,
check your
yeah,
email.
it's yeah, I should do that.
Yeah.
It's very their algorithm is you need a PhD to understand how you can get into Tokyo. It's very
Yeah.
complicated, cumbersome. They have all kinds of entries, levels, and so on. So Tokyo is the last of the majors
Mm.
that when I did my majors. There were only 5. They added Tokyo later on.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be the 6th. And they did Sydney, which is, they will consider it. That's
Mm-hmm.
the main goal. It's also the age group world championship, which next year I think it will be in New York.
Ah,
And
well, you'll
yeah,
get an invite to that for sure.
yes, I had the automatic qualifying time for that.
Nice.
We'll see how it goes, but
That's
we'll take
exciting.
one day at a time, see if the body holds, because it's taxing for sure. But
Absolutely.
going so many miles, I'm trying to mix things up, doing a bit of cross training, get out of the running for a while. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so that's the
Yes.
plan.
Well, that sounds great. Well, I hope recovery is going well. I think this is a
Yeah,
perfect way to wrap this all up. Thank you so much, Adrian, for coming back on. A lot of people have been requesting follow ups to the people that I talked about on the PR Training Lab. So it is an absolute treat to see the real person and hear the story of how it turned out. So, congratulations on
thank you.
ninth place or 10th place, however you want to look at it
Yes,
in your age group. That is an incredible accomplishment.
thank you very much, Claire. Thanks for having me.
Once again, if you would like to enter to win a custom training plan with the chance of your plan getting made live on the PR Training Lab, first go ahead and submit an Apple podcast review and then head to theplantedrunner.com/PR lab. The great thing, of course, is that you don't have to have a race on your calendar to get a plan made. They're great for the in-between times as well. But if you don't want to wait or you don't trust your luck to get chosen, go ahead and get your plan made now at theplantedrunner.com/plans. That's theplantedrunner.com/plans.